we've got the round 1 fixture for 2020. It's a few days earlier than what the actual season proper fixture is going to be, but hey, well, something to talk about, I guess, so let's get right into it. So the AFL today, as I'm recording it, so you'll probably be seeing this tomorrow, so yesterday, released the round 1 fixture for 2020, and I've actually got to say it's looking pretty interesting. Most of the matches seem relatively interesting, at least at this point. You know, we're at the end of October, we don't know really which teams are going to improve and decline and so on and so forth, but I'm pretty excited for pretty much every single game. Now, obviously, the traditional opener for the season, I say traditional, it's really only been like the last decade that this match has been happening as the season opener, but I quite like it actually, and that's Richmond versus Carlton as the opening game to the season. This week it falls on a Thursday night, which I actually don't mind Thursday night footy. It's an extra day of footy and I don't work Thursday nights, so I actually get to watch a game, which is fantastic. Happy with that. And to be honest, you know, Richmond have a shorter preseason than the rest of the competition due to the grand final win, and Carlton look to improve again for 2020. So I'm actually a bit worried for Richmond in this one. They could actually drop the ball. You got to remember, in the last 2 years, Carlton have actually been very competitive in this round opener, and part of that's to do with the fact that Richmond, as mentioned before, are on a shorter preseason, and Carlton have been steadily improving year on year for the past 3 or 4 years. They could actually finally start the season off with a win, which would be absolutely magnificent for the Blues coming into 2020. The following night is also a cracker of a game. It's the Western Bulldogs versus Collingwood on the Friday night. I actually think it's going to be a ripper of a game as well. The Bulldogs are probably looking to improve. We don't know who is going to be in Collingwood's starting team, depending on injuries and so on and so forth. But I do think the Bulldogs are capable enough, at least at this point, to take it up to the Pies, and they themselves could actually open up the season with a win. It's played at Marvel Stadium, which is traditionally stronger for the Bulldogs against the Pies, and so we could have 2 kind of upsets at the start of the year. The first game on Saturday opens with the Bombers taking on Fremantle, also at Marvel Stadium, which is actually going to be a very interesting game. Fremantle typically match up pretty well against Essendon, no matter where they play. Fremantle, despite travelling in week 1, are actually a genuine threat to opening their season with a win. Not really sure where to place Essendon at the moment. Is Joe Danaher going to be healthy? Is he going to be starting the year off, fit and firing? There's a lot of other question marks surrounding some players. Is Heppel going to be over his foot issues? Is Fantasia going to be hitting some form finally? There's a lot of system and players within the Essendon team that have quite a lot of question marks on them for me at this stage, at the very least. So I think actually Fremantle are in with a genuine chance to open their year off with a win as well, but it's a 50-50 game, much like the other 2 before it, which is a really strong way to open the season when you just don't know who's going to win, which is what I love about round 1. Saturday twilight football is Adelaide taking on the Swans at Adelaide Oval, and again, we just don't really know who's going to be the favourites for this game. Adelaide have just lost a huge heap of older talent. They're going to be playing a lot more youth in their team, hopefully. We hope. And Sydney are obviously going through their transitional rebuild at the moment without completely falling off the map. And I do think that they will be making finals again in 2020. But it is played at Adelaide Oval, where the Crows have been fairly strong at their home ground. But at this early stage, I'd probably go with the Swans being the favourites. I think their list will be in a healthier state than Adelaide's, and I think that they will get the opening win. Saturday night footy opens up with the runners-up GWS taking on Geelong. It's going to be played at Giants Stadium, which definitely gives the runners-up a massive advantage over Geelong. They tend to play the Giants Stadium pretty well. Geelong are on the back of losing Tim Kelly, but they have added a few position stocks to their side in Jack Stevens and Josh Jenkins as well, which I think, well, we just don't know how this team is going to click. They're older again. The younger players have generally been injury riddled throughout their careers. There are other younger players, that were playing in their first years. We've only got 1 year of service from them to really have a look at, and it's kind of hard to say whether they'll have the second year blues or whether they'll continue their tremendous form into 2020. Yeah, this could be a dangerous one for Geelong. Was 2019 a blip on the radar where they finished in first position? Are they finally going to start falling away? Are they going to keep being consistently at the top? We don't know with Geelong, and we've been asking these questions for the last decade. When are Geelong going to dip down? I know they kind of fell out of finals a couple of years ago, but they didn't stay down there. They're still a good team. So Geelong, come on, give the rest of the guys a go. But the Giants at this stage, for me, take the win on this one. Last Saturday night game of round 1 will be Gold Coast taking on Port Adelaide, and if you can see the graphic here in front of you, Port Adelaide have got a shiny new logo for the year. I actually think it looks pretty good. What do you think? Typically speaking, Gold Coast actually starts every year off quite strongly. There's a period for the first month or so of football where every single team in the competition is finding the balance on team balance and opposition analysis, and everyone's kind of coming into the season a bit blind and potentially underdone, or don't even know where their own team lies with regards to form and structures and stuff like that. And Gold Coast have a tendency to actually take real great advantage of that period where they win 3 games in the at the start of the year, which is generally the only 3 games that they win for the whole year. But there's 3 games that they win for the year, and they're typically stronger at their home ground of Metricon, which you'd expect being a home ground advantage. And I actually think they might get the win against Port Adelaide here. Port Adelaide, a bit of a young team. Their game plans and structures and everything are just completely unpredictable at the moment. They don't have a solid foundation set in at this stage. A solid preseason, and they might actually embed a solid game plan in, but based on the last couple of years, a couple of younger players going through last year, second year blues could take an effect, older players getting older. We just don't know what kind of Port Adelaide is going to be coming to the foray in 2020. Is it going to be the same inconsistent Port Adelaide that we've seen over the last 3 years? Or is it going to be a Port Adelaide that finally finds some consistency in its game plan and in its players and starts actually utilising its talent to push up the ladder again? We just don't know. I'm actually giving the checkbox to Gold Coast on this one. I just think they're a better team at the start of the year. Probably compared to almost every other team in the competition. Sunday opens up with North Melbourne taking on St Kilda, the 3rd match to be played in the weekend at Marvel Stadium. And I think both of these teams are relatively even matched. They're both going through semi-rebuilds whilst retaining some senior players, and they've both got new head coaches as well, which is going to be very interesting to see. Rhys Shaw was there for the majority of the year in 2019 or this year, but it's his first actual proper preseason and year at being at the helm, and you can say the same for Brett Ratton. He had a bit of a taste for it at the end of last year. He's a former head coach himself, so he's been through a preseason before. He knows what to do, he knows the processes. It's not a new experience for him, so that's going to be definitely a positive for him moving forward. But whether he's learned from his past mistakes or not, well, this is the chance to see whether or not we're going to be seeing a new Brett Ratton in a senior coach position. This game is actually genuinely difficult to predict on who's going to go where. Look, my instincts, my gut feeling says North Melbourne just straight off the bat, but I'm not confident in that one at all. The next game is a very interesting game. Hawthorn takes on Brisbane at the MCG. Now, over the last 2 seasons, Brisbane have beaten Hawthorn 4 times in a row now. Hawthorn have been on a bit of a losing streak to the Lions, pretty much wherever they've played. Although in saying that, I'm pretty sure the only places they've played is up at the Gabba and in Tasmania. So this is the first time that Brisbane have actually played the Hawks at the MCG for a while. And well, to be brutally honest, the Lions didn't play the MCG well at any stage last year. Now, that's to be expected of a developing side, playing in front of big crowds and at, bigger dimensions and interstate and everything like that. It's going to be difficult for them to find consistency at a ground like the MCG. No young, developing interstate teams ever play well at the MCG, and Brisbane were no exception in 2019. However, they have another year of development. In saying that, Hawthorn get Tom Mitchell back. It's another preseason into Jaeger Amira. They've got John Patton down the front. And it's another preseason for the team that's gone through a lot of changes over the last 2 or 3 years to gel again. I'm not actually sure who's going to win this. My heart goes with Brisbane, but my head goes with Hawthorn. So make of that what you will. I'm probably going to have to go with the home team on this in Hawthorn. And the last game of the round, the opening round of the year, is West Coast versus Melbourne Demons at Perth Stadium. Really tough schedule for Melbourne, who had an absolutely horror run in 2019. They finished second last after finishing their year in 2018 in a preliminary final. And West Coast kind of a really disappointing exit in a semi-final, considering they were kind of expected to go kind of back-to-back in 2019. Melbourne have a chance to use the preseason to adjust to the rules that were introduced coming into the 2019 season better, because their preparation for 2019 was just way off the mark. They still have a lot of younger players that are now starting to hit their prime kind of years, or coming into those prime kind of years, and they get a bit more consistent across the board. So this could be an interesting game. There's a lot of interest surrounding this game. How's West Coast going to start the year? They're traditionally slow at starting the year. What kind of Melbourne are we going to see in 2020? Is it going to reach the heights of 2018, or are we going to see the same as 2019? There's a lot of question marks, probably over both teams. How's Tim Kelly going to affect the midfield of West Coast as well? There's a lot of interest in this game in particular, I think, for round 1. But that is the fixture for round 1 in 2020. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below on the fixtures, whether you think the Tigers Carlton opening season game should be changed. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Any of the other matchups interest you? Do you think there's any particular weak games for round 1 this year? I'd be curious to get your thinking on all of those topics. Thanks for checking the video out. If you liked it, make sure you leave a thumbs up. Subscribe to AFL Access. We are always welcoming to newcomers that want to watch me just talk to you about footy stuff. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.